All right. Hi, everyone. I see some folks are just starting to jump on now to the webinar. It's just 2 o'clock and we've got a lot to talk about. So we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm going to start out first with a little bit of housekeeping before we do get started. First, I wanted to let you know that this webinar is being recorded and you will be able to find it. You'll get an email with the recording, and then you'll also be able to find it on our website at omnipress.com/webinars. Also, we will take questions throughout the presentation. We won't necessarily hold them just till the end, because I know that not everyone can stay till the end, but we will have questions at the end as well. So at any point you have a question, go ahead. You'll see kind of where to do that. Use the Q&A, not necessarily the chat, but use the Q&A to be able to ask your question, and I'll be monitoring those as we go. Also, I did also put this in the chat so everyone can see this, but if you're interested in live captions, we do have those available. If you're on the Zoom toolbar at the bottom, there's an area that says more with 3 dots. And if you click on that, you'll see captions as an option, and then you can click on show captions, and you should be able to have live captioning on during the webinar. All right, so let's start with introductions. So I'm Tracy Grzybowski, the Director of Marketing here at Omnipress. And if you're not familiar with Omnipress, we work with associations to help them produce and deliver their print and digital educational content. And joining me today is Melissa Graham. Melissa, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
Sure thing. Hi, I'm Melissa. I'm a director of SEO at a digital marketing agency called Rockeclicks. What makes this opportunity particularly exciting is that my history or my background actually came from association management. So I've been with associations and nonprofits prior to my agency world experience. Since probably 2014. So been a long time, very familiar with the space, and combining that with my digital marketing chutzpah, I think is going to be a really fun topic for us today.
Great. So glad you could join us. Thank you so much. Okay, so a little bit about our agenda for today. So we're going to walk through, why is SEO so important for associations? Why are we talking about this? How has the search engine optimization landscape changed in recent years with the introduction of AI and a new thing that's happening called generative search? How can associations produce high quality content that gets found, but at the same time be able to maintain the integrity of that content? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So let's take a quick step back. So what exactly are we talking about when we're talking about SEO or search engine optimization? It's a really big topic. There's a lot of facets to it. We could do an entire course just on SEO. And our point is not necessarily to make all of you SEO experts, but to give you a few of the key tips that you need to be able to make yourselves more visible. And the reason for that, first, what SEO is really making sure your content provides the answers that members are looking for at the moment they're looking for them. So they've got a pain point, they're looking for a particular resource or an answer. They're generally going to jump on their search engine of choice to try to find that answer. And the question is, does your content appear within those results or not? And that's whether we're talking about traditional search engines like Google and Bing, or some of the platforms that are increasingly being used by search, especially by young professionals like YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. So why is SEO so important for associations? I mean, don't people just in the industry already know that the association is the place to get a lot of this content? Well, you have a lot more competition than you've ever had before from competing associations, but also from your own industry partners, large for-profit platforms like LinkedIn Learning, consultants, even some very noteworthy universities are getting their content out there and accessible to people on a lot of these same topics. Here's just one example for that. Did a search related to CPAs, and you can see all of the different resources that come up from all of these different sources. And the association is in there, but you've got all of these other competitors too, anytime someone's looking for these types of resources. Additionally, the way we talk about SEO has changed considerably over the past few years because AI is really changing the search experience. There's generative search, which is going to produce zero-click search results. Google, and Melissa's going to get into this in greater detail, but just a little heads up, Google is serving information that does not necessarily require a click to a website, which makes it even harder to compete than ever before. This is just a little preview. Again, Melissa's going to go into this, but this is what the new search experience looks like if you haven't seen it already. It is still, I believe, technically in beta, but I've been playing with it. I've been monitoring it for a long time, and this is where search is going. And again, I'll leave it to Melissa to kind of talk about that a little bit more. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Yeah. I know that I want to spend a lot of time talking about how this impacts your websites, how this impacts associations. We've got a lot of really great examples and even checklists and resources for you. Before digging into that, I'm going to give you a little bit of context, a little bit of history here. Of course, AI goes really far back. It's nothing new. The roots of AI in advertising specifically, it came up right alongside the widespread popularity of the internet. So when you think of Google and when you think of Facebook, really as pioneers, they're the first on the ground to use and popularize the algorithms to analyze user data, to deliver relevant ads for the first time ever based on interests, relationships, your level of education, work history, whether or not you own a loud barking dog, I am so sorry, search history and other factors. That kind of approach, I think it improves the effectiveness of advertisements, but it also enhances the overall experience for the user. You know, for the first time, you're seeing things that were created just for you and for your needs. So it's the first kind of foray into turning a global experience into a more personalized one. And that's really the theme of AI and the theme of how you can use big sets of data as a marketer. How are we turning global experience into personalized ones? And of course, as marketers, when we see that that's working, we want to do it everywhere. We want to use machine learning. We want to use chatbots. We want to use programmatic advertising. We want to use voice activated devices, virtual assistants. And I think search generative experience is another example of how we're turning big data sets, global experiences into personalized ones. But what's really interesting here is that you're creating this new expectation, right? The world is continuing to evolve at an unrelenting pace, and staying relevant sometimes means keeping up with these changes. Our customers today, we've created them. We've created customers who are tech savvy, who are data driven, and they expect personalized experiences tailored to their needs and to their preferences. So it's come to the point where, especially in nonprofit world or in associations who have perhaps smaller budgets than the big Nike brands or Coca-Cola brands out there, but some of those traditional marketing tactics just don't cut it anymore. You know, one size fits all does not cut it anymore. It's no longer an option. So trying to stay competitive in a world where these customers have these new experiences, you're going to see like all of these tools coming to play, things that are supposed to help us do our jobs better. Big data, global experiences, personalized kind of, stories for our customers. These are a few of the most popular AI tools that marketers use. A lot of these are you're probably familiar with them. Hopefully you are, and hopefully they're saving you some time. I will share with you from this list, my favorite would be Jasper for content writing. And I really love the flexibility of OpenAI. So if you have to prioritize this list and learn just about one of them, I would suggest OpenAI, which I would say is the brain behind ChatGPT. Okay, so I wanted to pivot from AI now into the search generative experience. This is just a sample. This is, I think, what Google has been peddling around when they first introduced the beta opportunity to their users. This was the screenshot supplied along with that. And I know my reaction when I saw that was, where have all the websites gone? Like,
Yep.
I don't see websites here anymore. Do you? I think that's probably the most shocking thing here. I think that I have another, yep, if you want to hit the next slide, you'll
Sure.
see the bigger picture. This is how the layout is shifting for all search engine results pages, and certainly with search generative experience specifically. But the trend here is that the content which you're used to seeing linking to websites in organic search results is not only smaller, it's also below the fold. And you're also seeing, excuse me, that some of the tools that you're used to, maybe it's a map pack, or maybe it's some of those kind of profile boxes, informational boxes that are normally in the top right, those are shifting lower as well. So that's, I think, a really important thing to think about in terms of how ranking actually matters. Because if I'm in a position 1, 2, or 3, before search generative experience, you would celebrate that you would project it, you would measure it, you would track it. And now at search generative, it's a little bit different. It's lower, it's less significant. So I think that's probably the biggest thing to take away. Of course, paid is still at the top as it is, but yeah. So how do you stay relevant in a world like this? I want to tell you, it's not a big secret what users want and what Google wants, and ultimately what I want for you and your content. It's all the same. At the same side of the coin, quality content is still incredibly important, and you certainly don't want to get on the wrong side of Google for having low quality content or for missing out or having gaps. This is true in the before picture, and this is true in the after picture for that search generative experience. Truthfully, it doesn't matter if the content itself was created by a human being or created by AI, as long as you're giving the best possible result for a given query, you're helping, you're answering the question, you're ending or terminating the search with your answer, your response. That is the best way to win. It's all about quality of content. So if you're kind of thinking about it in terms of content generation, be relevant, be useful, be unique, and add value to the conversation. That's what Google wants. That's what users want. And that's ultimately, as a marketer, what I want to do as well. You can use AI in a more sophisticated way to help you achieve this. The way I like to think of it, it's a tool. You should be using the tool. The tool should not be using you. And don't think of it in terms of prompt and response, but think about it as, how do you build a machine to help you refine, research, aggregate, reiterate, and contribute that research back to you, plan it, publish it, all that good stuff. So yeah, you can hit the next slide.
Sorry, Melissa, I hit the button on accident.
How do we actually turn that advice into something that's real for associations to take it and run with it? And how do you bring this to your board? How do you bring this to your marketing team? How do you actually do something with all this new information? So at the end of the day, I would love to kind of focus on some real world examples. So we can kind of dive into that. One of the things that you should know is that Google tells you exactly what quality content means, and it's pretty easy to execute on. It's pretty easy to do. If you're bored and you're looking for something to read, you can kind of Google quality rater guidelines. Google tells you exactly what is quality content. My favorite bullet points that I'm pulling out of there are summarized here. The first thing I'd like you to think about is what we call double EAT. How do you use your content and your website to demonstrate experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness? This is how you kind of prove that your content is worth something. It's worth a position 1 ranking. You've earned it. The quality is good, and you have a right to speak to that subject. The way that you can kind of prove that you have that trustworthiness or that authoritativeness, expertise, experience, that double EAT, in Google's eyes, they're going to measure you using your inbound link profile. So your inbound link profile would be how many websites just across the entire internet trust you enough to link back to you. trust you enough to refer back to you, trust you enough to cite you or to talk about you, even on social media. So the way that Google's measuring your credibility is by looking at how the rest of the world views you, and that's your inbound link profile. The other thing that you can do really directly is to think carefully about your author bios. It's a huge opportunity. The screenshot that I have here is from WebMD, and you'll see that not only are WebMD, of course, is authoritative for giving questionable medical advice. Should never ever use WebMD when you're actually sick, because chances are you'll scare yourself, but it is always top in the search, and they do have professionals on staff. So the way that they earn that expertise or that authority, they do a really excellent job of building out those author bios. The screenshot here shows that this article was published and written by a doctor. And you can see that she has her own profile on the website. There's a blue, you can click into it and learn more about her. It's connected to LinkedIn, it's connected to her profession. She's a physician, and it's even reviewed by other people who are also qualified. So they're building up a lot of expertise. I think this is a great opportunity because associations, more than any other industry, have direct access to experts in the field. You have the smartest board members on the planet. There are papers being published all the time. There are conferences with really authoritative speakers. If you can use those in your content generation purposes, like the authority that you can bring by connecting their name to your content is tremendously huge. The last thing that I wanted to share with you is that there is such a thing. You've heard of algorithm updates before. Helpful content update happens frequently. Most frequent helpful content update was in March. You should know that content that seems to have been created for the sole purpose of ranking, keyword stuffing, completely useless, was penalized then, and it will continue to be penalized. So lean on your authority, lean on your expertise, lean on quality content, make it stick with inbound links, make it stick with really good author bios, and don't be tempted to just spit out into the universe with a bunch of keywords. Cool. Okay, so the next thing that I wanted to chat through is this reminder that's probably going to be a little bit controversial, but you need to know that Google does not crawl behind your paywall. So if you have some kind of gated content, Google will not see that in terms of understanding how relevant you are, how authoritative you are, or even showing it in the search results. The way that you should kind of view the content and the value that you add through your content is that content should exist that follows each step of the buyer journey. Content should exist that Google can see, which attracts new members, converts new members, closes the sale, maybe on a conference registration ticket or a membership, and also delights a loyal member to keep coming back over and over again. Content needs to be found that hits all of these buckets. In addition to that, the 2 bullet points at the bottom here are really, I would say, rules, golden rules that you can think about for all of the content that you are creating. If you're able to optimize indexable landing pages or crawlable landing pages, you can also add relevant keywords to that, and you can kind of use that content to boost your gated content. By that, I mean, you don't have to convert all of your gated content. I know there's going to be a lot of proprietary things out of there, a lot of things that are behind certification, education, and training. But can you imagine creating content that supports that, that brags about that, that goes into detail here, that captures interest around it? And that itself would be very indexable and easy to find. I think.
And I will say, it sounds simple enough, but I see a lot of association websites that have their resource library. They have this amazing, robust resource library,
Yes.
but to know what's in it or to know what any of these resources are about, you have to have the credentials already to be able to log in and see it. So not only can't prospective members go, oh, well, is this worth my time and my money? But Google can't grab any of that either.
Yeah, I think if you're struggling for ideas of how do you spread the word about this really excellent high value content that must remain gated or must remain behind a paywall, I still want it to be very searchable. This is a great example. This is from the American Academy, I think, of PAs. And here you see that there's a salary report. You know, that's something that you can download. That's something that's technically not searchable, scannable. Google is not scanning the report itself, but you have a really robust page with a really excellent experience This is through internal links on their website. This is advertised on their homepage. This is in their navigation and menu. And you've got several paragraphs sharing with Google as well as with your website visitors of, adjacent topics, news relevant to the industry, keywords. You see a really excellent title and headlines and subheadings. The thing is, they're creating content around their gated content. So that way they're still easily searched and easily found.
And here's what that looks like then in this new generative search arena, right? So all of these areas that are circled, if you look up, salary, PA salaries, PA salary reports, you do see, the top got cut off a bit, but you do see there are other resources that are cited here. This is over on the left. This is all of the AI generated content from Google. This is Google saying, hey, this is the answer to your question before you even go click to a website. This is what we're seeing. And you can see how they cite and they compile a lot of different sites together into one answer. It's almost like Wikipedia style sort of, but Google's doing it. And because of this ungated content that APPA put out, you can see that they are actually cited in Google's summary, as well as, toward the top of actual search results all around this particular salary report.
Yeah, and I think it's easy to overlook the world that wouldn't exist. But if you have, I understand if you have a limited resources, you can't create all this supporting content for your good stuff, or maybe you're really stubborn about, giving away everything for free. But the truth is, if they hadn't published that page and if they had not published that supporting content, there's 3 places in the search engine results page that they would not show up for their own profession. Like if you're trying to be an expert on PAs and you're absent from a salary search, well, then I'm looking at US News Best Jobs or Hayes Locums, healthcare weather bee. Like the thing is, like they're able to secure 1, 2 in the snippet on the right, bullet point on the left, paragraph on the left. This is tremendous for visibility, and this is tremendous for new members to understand who you are and what you're good at. Certainly better than 0.
Absolutely. And you have, I should say too, you never really had total control over organic results, but
Sure.
People would put together paid search campaigns to try to sort of help that, right? So you'd still be at the top of these traditional results, as long as everything else was in order related to relevance and what have you. But this content that Google is pulling, Google is deciding to do that itself. So it's trying to find specifically what resources answer this specific question. And you have 0 control over that. That's completely generated by Google.
Absolutely spot on. I think too, it's proving that Google is still trying to use content to answer your question, to solve a problem, to help you. So AI has found the most relevant content on the internet to help it answer a question with or without you.
Yep.
Great. The next example I have is from the MDS, Movement Disorder Society. They're really well known for scales. So there are certain measures and certain scales that physicians can use in their diagnostics. You can be certified in these. They certainly rely on a lot of revenue and a lot of expertise that's directly related to these trainings and certifications. But I really loved how you can see these adjacent topics that are kind of around their scales and around their measures. This whole page is divided by, hey, these are certification courses you need to sign up for and pay for. And the other half of the page is all free content. So which I think is ethically brilliant, so you can learn more about movement disorders and you can learn more about how to use these scales, even without a certificate, even without the training of the program. You can educate yourself and benefit the lives of your patients. I think they also do a really great job with other resources on their website. I know here you see the resources tab and you can kind of go through a bunch of different libraries, some databases, some tools like calculators, even patient handouts. I know they also have things like podcasts, blogs, newsletters, all sorts of things that can really help propel their industry without removing the value from their scales or removing value from their measures. Yeah.
So, oh,
Yeah,
I'm
go
sorry. Did
ahead.
you want to speak to that, Melissa? Sorry.
No, I was going to say this probably looks really big and intimidating. You're either looking at your current website thinking, gosh, I don't have nearly enough content, or you're thinking, oh boy, the content I have is not optimized and it's a really big task. So I hope that this action items list is going to be really helpful for you. So with that, Tracy, you can take it away.
Yeah, I mean, really, if you take anything away from this, number one, you absolutely have to make sure you've got helpful, useful, authoritative content. And the good news is, as the association, you already do. So that's why that checkbox is green. You've actually got the benefit of already having this content. Now it's just a matter of how do we tweak it? How do we make some adjustments so that more of that content is more visible? And so, as Melissa said, first look at creating those inbound links. So, having links to your author bios, have any authors, speakers, presenters share that content from, the course they're giving or from the conference that they're attending, have them share some information from that. Turn your conference speakers into guest contributors, turn your industry partners into guest contributors and have that cross-linking. And then promote and share industry content, or promote that content with your industry partners, because they are looking to also build that credibility with the same audience that you serve. So if they can connect themselves and their areas of expertise with you as the association, that's just going to help their credibility too. And so they're going to want to use you as a source and as a resource and share that content. And then, as Melissa discussed, add that keyword rich content in front of the gate. It can honestly be something as simple as make sure you've got a nice, robust description around your resource library and around anything in your resource library. And that way people can see, oh, this is a resource that's available from XYZ Association. This is exactly the information I'm looking for, I need, that I want to continue to develop, myself, my career, my credentials, and therefore they'll know to come to you. And Google will also pick up on that and show that when they're looking for that exact content. Again, that can include as simple as a summary. You can have some type of teaser. So if there's a little bit of information you can pull out from that content to just tease people with what's in it. And then they have to actually get some type of credentials to be able to see the full content or the full report. And videos, obviously videos are huge, and you don't need a huge setup to be able to create videos these days. They don't have to be perfectly professional. But promotional videos that talk about the piece of content as well.
Before moving on to, if you're just racking your brain for ideas, if you're trying to look at a whiteboard thinking what other type of content can I create here, if you have adjacent topics within the industry, that's something that you can write yourself, or you can have it written by and credited to your experts. So if I'm thinking about, let's say PAs, there's so many adjacent trends for work or labor trends in the market related to PAs, or things that are related to patient care, or things that are related to their journey in education. So think adjacent topics. So these are things that you may not even be necessarily selling through your conferences or through your newsletters or through your gated content, but it's demonstrating that you know PAs really well because you've got experts talking about all these adjacent related things. The other low-hanging fruit, I would say, would be breaking news related to the industry. When news breaks, of course, people start to Google it, get their answers, get the industry perspectives, get the hot takes, and a lot of that happens pretty quickly. And it's easy to contribute to that conversation. And hopefully, if you're doing it correctly, those prospective members and those current members are holding the conversation back with you, and it's an ongoing thing. So breaking news, I think, is one of my favorite low-hanging fruits if you're struggling for content.
Yep, and that ties in nicely to sort of that last bullet point. And this is the one that does become more resource intensive. So basically, if you're very limited on resources, if you just do bullets 2 and 3, and even in bullet 3, just make sure you've got a nice, robust summary, that in and of itself is going to do wonders. But if you're also looking at, okay, we do have other channels that we need to populate with content, like blogs and, other things like that, use that to talk about topics that surround, as Melissa was saying, that surround these larger resources that require membership or, membership dues or some type of paid fee to be able to access.
Definitely. And I was going to kind of share too, I know that people are really checklist happy. So if you're thinking, okay, I've got my content in mind, I've identified my pillars or the things that I really want to focus on and demonstrate my expertise on, what is the honey-do list, I guess, for that little piece of content that I'm creating. I want you to think about the keywords that you're using, make sure they're in the title tag, the meta description, and throughout the content, not in like an annoying or spammy way, just smart and present. I want you to write a click-worthy meta description and page title. I want you to structure your page with subheadings. Don't have one whole page of text, like break it down into nice digestible chunks that are led with subheadings. If you have images, I want you to be thinking about your alt text, not just for accessibility reasons, but also for keyword richness. And I also want you to think about building internal links that point to the page you're trying to support. If you're writing about PA salaries and you fail to point to the report itself, then that's a huge missed opportunity to send traffic there, as well as tell Google what is most important to you and to your site and what should be designated as the #1 page for PA salaries. So make sure you're pointing back to important things or pointing back to your primary pillar content.
Yeah. And I would say too, again, it can seem kind of overwhelming. We do a lot of these types of things ourselves just for our own business, and we're a small team. And so it's really a matter of start with one topic. What is one really important topic to your membership, to your industry, that gets the most attention, that gets the most interest. Start with that one topic and start executing some of these strategies with that one topic. And just that alone, you'll see some great results.
Cool.
Okay. We do have time for questions. So if you have them, please get them in the Q&A. Melissa, we did have a question come in. Does Google crawl PDFs that are linked to in your website, or should this information be actual content on a web page instead?
Mm-hmm. I will share that Google can crawl PDFs on your website, but there's a big old asterisk there. There are times where that is not possible. The times where that is not possible is it downloadable content, designed for a landing page or a paid media purpose or something where you have to give an email address or you have to give your name and your organization in order to view or access that PDF. So if it's behind a gated kind of gateway or paywall, Google will not be able to crawl that. I will also share with you that I have encountered PDFs that were not recently created. So the rich text formatting possibilities did not exist back in the day. And I know we're all probably scratching our heads at those old nonprofits or old associations where it's like, here's a 2002 PDF from our library. The odds are probably higher that Google's not able to recognize that it's text on a page for it to crawl. Recent PDFs are crawlable. I think for the user experience, that's also really significant. Unless you're, I would say, boomer and older, you tend not to interact with PDFs. I'm sorry if that is offensive, but if you're marketing to generations, less likely to print things, less likely to download things, the younger and younger you get. So if I'm a user and I'm having a bad experience on your page because I don't like interacting with PDFs, I just want to read a dang article on a website. If I end up hitting the back page, if I end up leaving your website, that's going to be noted by Google as a poor user experience and a failure to answer my question, which means I'm going to lose rankings and lose expertise in Google's eyes, which is something you can actually measure. It's called pogo sticking in the SEO world. So if I'm proving to Google that that search experience failed to answer my question, that's going to be a factor in my declining rankings.
Okay. And with PDFs too, I remember back in the day, there used to be some almost like alt text fields that you would, make sure that are populated within the settings of your PDF. Is that still something that you need to do?
I haven't seen it make a difference. I have seen people who, like I've had clients before who are very, I would say niche, very, business to business niche. So a lot of the questions that are searched really are relevant in, let's say, the specs sales sheet, and they do need their PDFs behind the scenes, they still show up for searches, even if they failed to fill out some of those form fields or some of those customizable fields.
Okay, great, thank you.
Mhm.
Do we have any other questions from the group? Give it just another moment or two. Melissa, any closing advice to anyone? Obviously, this is something you think about every day. I know a lot of the folks probably on this webinar think about this and a million other things every day. Any other advice to anybody just really sort of starting out with this?
Yeah, I think that it can be intimidating to ask about gated content or to ask about the value of paywalls. I would recommend, from an executive presence standpoint, don't go in guns a-blaring saying, we need to get rid of all of our gated content. This is the way of the future. It's probably better to say, we have value behind gated content, and it's a yes and kind of conversation that you should be having. It's not tear away all of your paywalls. It's not remove everything from the gate, but it's yes, have it, and do these things to support it. So I hope that helps you kind of navigate those conversations with a little bit more negotiating power and get the buy-in that you need to commit resources or use AI to create all this good content that you need to stay relevant.
Sure.
I know that can be probably a very intimidating conversation coming from other board members or other leaders who aren't marketers, and they know what the value is of their expertise. So
Right. And I would say too, and we do have one more question that we'll get to in just a second, but I would say too, it is a really interesting exercise. If you have not done this either before or in a while, take some of the key topics and questions that are asked in your industry. Google those and see what results come up and see who else comes up in the results. I think it's really important to keep an eye on who else in your industry is talking about these same topics. What are they doing to get that type of visibility? How visible are you compared to them? And if you need to, you can even use this as a case to make this a priority and make this an initiative within your organization. All right, with that, we've got a couple questions. So if you create a blog separate from your website and create links that go back to your website, does that create inbound links, or is it better to house your blog on your website?
it is better to house your blog on your website. I will say, if you have a subdomain, which can be very confusing, if you have a subdomain, that is your website. So if you have something that's like blogs.domain.com or resources.domain.com, as long as you have that same domain, it is considered the same website. There are cross-domain opportunities where your analytics can connect to each other, but if it is cross-domain truly and it's a separate website entirely, it's still better to have your blogs on your website, not on your second website, but your primary domain. I will share with you too that there's a black hat SEO effort where you can be penalized from Google. It's called link farming. And that's where back in the day, people used to try to artificially create these inbound link opportunities by purchasing domains, spinning up fly-by-night websites, and the sole purpose of that website was just to link back to the one they actually cared about. So Google does recognize this as bad, and it will ding you and blacklist you for a while if you do something like that.
Great, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
All right, another question. With the onset of AI being integrated into search engines and even CRMs, is there a concern that organizations no longer own their content? Lots of hesitation to just let OpenAI crawl and download our resources.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a possibility for OpenAI and any AI software that you're using to have access to whatever data you're providing it. Absolutely. I think the privacy is probably an illusion on the internet, and I think that owning your own, I would say, resources or your own kind of thought leadership is also something that's being eroded, especially with AI. If there is a concern over, hey, this is private information we do not want to share, or this is proprietary information we do not want to share, you don't have to allow OpenAI to have access to everything. A great example that I can share with you would be you can have OpenAI as a script in a spreadsheet or a Google Sheet, and everything that you're supplying has to be supplied in that Google Sheet. I particularly use that model to help me create product descriptions or even meta descriptions for very specific items. So in one column, I'll have the product that I'm trying to write for. And then I'll have some, hey, here's the character count, here's the tone that we need, here's how you describe the product. And then the last column will be generated by OpenAI. Put this all together in a product description that I can run with. So this is a way where OpenAI does not have access to all of my products or to all of my website or all of my internal documents, but it is something that I'm allowing it to kind of look at what's in the spreadsheet and help me craft or help me supply and use it as a tool without, losing the integrity of my actual owned data.
Okay. Okay, another question. If an association conference is the biggest or largest initiative for an association, and we use an event management to house all the sessions, speakers, conference data, any tips for how to get some of that content to show up in Google search, or sprinkle that data on our website, but not duplicate efforts?
I'd be curious what event management platform you're using and why that itself would not be indexable or crawlable or doesn't exist to be embedded on your website already. To me, that should be an easy integration or an easy opportunity where you shouldn't have to be recreating the content in two separate places just to get visibility. Like if it's a great event management app or a great event management tool, there should be places where you can take that content and like have it also viewable on your website or independently on the web as something searchable. So if that's not possible, yes, sprinkle it on your website, but the efficiency angry person inside of me says that this is 2024 and that should be done automatically.
Okay. Well, thank you, Melissa. Last call. Any other questions from the audience? All right. Well, as you can see here, if you have any follow-up questions or, just wanting to hear more, you can feel free to contact Melissa directly, mgraham@rockeclicks.com. And then the recording of this webinar, like I said, we will send out an email probably by about midday tomorrow with the recording. And you can also find it on our website at omnipress.com/webinars. All right. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And thank you, Melissa.
Yeah, thank you. Feel free for sure. Send any questions my way.
Okay, great. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.